10 early signs of heart attack in women over 60 you should never ignore. Did you know that 7 out of 10 women have no idea they are having a heart attack until it is too late? That number may sound distant, but in reality, it could be you, your spouse, or the mother you deeply love. The most frightening part is not the heart attack itself, but the way it comes quietly, while you believe it is only the ordinary inconveniences of aging. We often imagine heart attacks as something intense, a crushing chest pain that drops someone to the ground in an instant. But in women over 60, the heart often chooses another way to speak. It does not scream. It whispers with vague signals, lingering fatigue, shortness of breath after just a few steps, or long, restless nights without any clear reason. How many times have you told yourself it's just aging and moved on? And how many times were those little signs actually the heart's final warning? In the next few minutes, I will walk you through 10 silent yet dangerous warning signs highlighted by the American Heart Association, so you and your loved ones can recognize and prevent them in time. Each sign I mention is tied to real stories of women just like you. Women who nearly lost their chance at life simply because they believed it was nothing serious. So let us begin with the very first sign, one that seems harmless but could change your entire life. Unexplained fatigue. Why would something as simple as tiredness be a cry for help from the heart?
Sign 1. Unexplained fatigue. After the age of 60, many women accept fatigue as an inevitable part of aging. You may think, I'm getting older, of course I feel sluggish sometimes. But have you ever wondered why, even after resting well, doing no heavy work, and not staying up late, you still feel so drained that you lose interest in almost everything? I remember a patient. Her name was Margaret, 62 years old. She came to the hospital simply because she had been exhausted for months. At first, both she and her family thought it was the weather, her age, or simply lack of sleep. But when we ran the tests, we discovered she was in the early stage of heart failure, and she had even suffered a mild heart attack before, without ever realizing it. What haunted me most was her words, "Doctor, I honestly thought that if I just rested a little more, I would get better." The truth is, your heart may be struggling in silence. When the heart muscle cannot pump blood effectively, the body lacks oxygen, and you begin to feel exhausted even without doing anything strenuous. If that fatigue forces you to cancel appointments, refuse social gatherings, or leaves you without the strength to take a simple walk, then it is no longer just an ordinary part of aging. So the question is, how can we distinguish between normal tiredness and a true warning from the heart? And more importantly, what happens if that exhaustion comes with shortness of breath after climbing just a few steps?
Sign 2. Shortness of breath during simple activities. Shortness of breath is one of the most overlooked warning signs among women over 60. This is because we often tell ourselves, I'm older now, losing stamina is just natural. But is that really true? Have you ever found yourself gasping for air after only climbing a few stairs, or needing to stop and catch your breath after simply walking from the living room to the garden? I recall a woman named Margaret in Ohio, 62 years old. She told me that just going upstairs made her chest feel heavy, her breathing grow shallow, and she had to hold on to the wall for support. At first she thought, it must be because I don't exercise enough, I just need to work out more. But during a health checkup, we discovered she had coronary artery blockage, an early sign of heart disease. Had she continued to dismiss it as just a sign of aging, she might not be sitting in front of me today. The important thing is to distinguish. If you are breathless after jogging or carrying something heavy, that is normal. But if you feel short of breath after slow walking, standing too long in the kitchen, or even while changing clothes, then your heart is speaking to you. And especially if this happens repeatedly and does not improve with rest, you need to pay closer attention. Have you ever experienced this kind of breathlessness? If so, share it in the comments, because your story might help someone else recognize the problem early. So, if shortness of breath can be mistaken for aging, then what about nausea, bloating, or digestive discomfort? Are they really just stomach issues? Sign 3. Nausea, bloating, or indigestion-like discomfort. No one expects a heart attack to disguise itself as simple indigestion. And yet, this is exactly what has sent many women over 60 to the hospital in critical condition. Have you ever felt nauseous, bloated, or uncomfortable in your upper stomach after a meal and immediately assumed it was just your stomach acting up? I remember one patient. Her name was Alice, 67 years old. After a lunch that included an egg salad, she felt slight pressure in her upper abdomen and nausea, so she quickly took some digestive medicine. But just a few hours later, she was rushed to the emergency room. It turned out this was not indigestion at all, but a heart attack. When she heard the diagnosis, she exclaimed in shock, "I never thought the heart could hurt in this way." In reality, in women, heart attacks rarely begin with the dramatic chest pain we often imagine. They often start silently, with symptoms that look like digestive issues: nausea, bloating, loss of appetite, or a burning sensation in the upper stomach. This vagueness is exactly what makes many women downplay it, convincing themselves it was just something I ate, and thereby missing the golden window for intervention. Have you ever felt stomach discomfort while a small thought crossed your mind? Could it be my heart? If you have, don't dismiss it. Get it checked. Because sometimes the line between just the stomach and a heart attack is far thinner than you think. And here comes the surprising part. The heart doesn't always send warnings through chest pain. It can send signals through backaches, neck pain, or even soreness in the jaw, places you would never expect. Sign 4. Pain outside the chest. When people think of heart attacks, most immediately picture a dramatic, crushing pain in the chest. But the truth is, in women over 60, the heart often chooses a more unusual way to signal distress. It may be a dull ache in the shoulder, stiffness at the back of the neck, pain running along the spine, or even sharp discomfort in the jaw, areas most people would never associate with the heart. I recall a woman named Helen, 64 years old. One morning, while washing her hair, she felt an ache in the back of her neck. Assuming it was just a chill from the wind, she ignored it. But gradually, the pain spread down to her shoulder and along her back. She never experienced chest pain, no shortness of breath, no nausea, just a dull, persistent discomfort that robbed her of sleep for several nights. When her family finally took her to the hospital, the doctors discovered she was suffering from myocardial ischemia. Had she delayed even a few more days, the outcome could have been very different. What makes this symptom so dangerous? It is precisely its unusual nature that deceives so many women. Instead of thinking of the heart, they assume it must be arthritis, poor posture, or a pulled muscle. And so the heart continues to struggle silently until it can no longer endure. Have you ever felt persistent pain in your back, neck, or shoulders without any clear reason? If the answer is yes, take it as a reminder from your body, because sometimes those unusual aches may be the only sign of a silent heart attack. And then there is a symptom even more vague, yet it often appears right before a heart attack: sudden, unexpected cold sweats that break out even when you are not doing anything strenuous. Sign 5. Sudden cold sweats. For people over 60, many often assume sweating is normal, maybe due to hot weather,
physical activity, or simply stress. But what happens if those beads of sweat appear while you are standing still, not doing any heavy work, even inside a cool room? I remember a woman named Linda, 66 years old. One afternoon at the supermarket, while she was picking vegetables, she suddenly felt her whole body turn cold. Sweat poured out as if she had just been running, even though she was only standing still. No chest pain, no shortness of breath, no dizziness. Just a strong sense that something was very wrong. She struggled to make it home, but within an hour, she collapsed and was rushed to the hospital with a silent heart attack. In reality, cold sweats are the body's response when circulation falters. When the heart cannot pump blood efficiently, the nervous system triggers an alarm, causing the body to release sweat. Many people dismiss it, thinking it is only due to weather or aging, but in truth, it may be the body's desperate cry for help. Have you ever suddenly broken into a cold sweat without any clear reason? If so, share your story in the comments, because your experience could help someone else recognize this warning sign. And it is not only the body. Sometimes the heart sends signals through your emotions themselves. Have you ever felt anxious, restless, or uneasy for no reason, as if something terrible was about to happen?
Sign 6. Unusual anxiety or restlessness. Have you ever suddenly felt uneasy, anxious for no apparent reason, without any sadness, stress, or pressure in your life, yet your heart started racing and your mind felt restless as if something terrible was about to occur? Many women over 60 have experienced this very feeling in the hours or even days before a heart attack. A large study by the U.S. National Heart Institute revealed that nearly 44% of women who suffered a heart attack admitted they had felt unusual anxiety just hours or days before the event. What is remarkable is that these women did not have chronic anxiety disorders. Their bodies were otherwise normal, but their hearts were not. When the heart muscle does not receive enough blood, the nervous system sends out a difficult-to-describe signal, and sometimes it reveals itself through anxiety. One of my patients once told me, "Doctor, that night I kept pacing back and forth. My heart was racing and I couldn't understand why. I felt an unusual anxiety and couldn't sleep at all. Just a few hours later, I had a heart attack." When you hear that, does it sound familiar to you? Have you ever experienced a nameless fear, a restlessness with no explanation, with no reason you could find? Share your story in the comments, because your experience might help someone else recognize what they are overlooking. And if that uneasiness comes together with another symptom, such as dizziness or fainting, then it may be a much more serious warning. Do you want to know why dizziness can be a silent sign of heart trouble? Sign 7. Dizziness or fainting. One morning, Evelyn, a 70-year-old woman, stood up from her bed and suddenly felt the whole room spin. Just seconds later, she lost her balance and collapsed on the floor. Her family thought it was low blood sugar, but at the hospital, the results showed she had just experienced a transient ischemic attack, a temporary reduction of blood flow to the heart. Dizziness, lightheadedness, or fainting are symptoms many women often attribute to low blood pressure, lack of sleep, or dehydration. But studies from the American Heart Association reveal that more than 27% of women hospitalized for heart attacks had experienced dizziness or fainting spells within the 72 hours before the event. When the heart weakens, it fails to pump enough blood to the brain, and the brain reacts immediately with imbalance, blurred vision, or sudden loss of consciousness. The troubling part is that these fainting episodes are often ignored because they resemble common everyday problems. But that very neglect causes many women to lose the golden window of opportunity to stop a heart attack in time. Have you ever felt dizzy out of nowhere when standing up, or even lost consciousness for a few seconds, only to reassure yourself that it was just lack of sleep? If you have, share your story because it could help someone else see the danger early. But even when chest pain is present, women often experience a very different kind of pain compared to men. Do you want to know why chest pain in women is often so silent and easily mistaken for something else? Sign 8. Subtle chest discomfort. We often think that a heart attack must come with severe, crushing chest pain, like someone is squeezing the chest in a vice, but in women over 60, this is not always the case. In many instances, chest discomfort is fleeting, mild, and so easy to dismiss. I remember Helen, 67, from Ohio. That afternoon, while cooking, she felt a slight heaviness in the center of her chest. She described it as if a small brick had been placed on her chest. Not stabbing, not crushing, just a dull pressure. She thought it was because she had eaten spicy food, or maybe because of the stress of the past few days. Later that night, when she lay down, the pressure spread to her back and shoulders, but because it didn't feel like the classic heart attack pain, she endured it silently. By the next morning, she was hospitalized with an acute heart attack. The truth is, when women have heart attacks, the sensation is often more like heaviness, mild pressure, burning, or dull discomfort, rather than sharp pain. Sometimes they even mistake it for heartburn or indigestion, and it is exactly this vagueness that causes so many to miss their chance of survival. Have you ever felt that dull heaviness in your chest and told yourself it was just stress or fatigue? Share your story, because it might be the reminder someone else needs. And there is yet another symptom, one that may seem completely unrelated to the heart, but it is in fact a strong warning: chronic insomnia. Do you want to know why those long, restless nights could actually be your heart crying for help? Sign 9. Chronic insomnia. Have you ever tossed and turned all night, shifting from one side to the other, yet unable to fall asleep, even though you had nothing on your mind? Many women assume insomnia is just a natural part of aging, or the result of daily habits. But science has shown that persistent insomnia can be a silent warning from the heart. A study published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that middle-aged and older women who frequently suffer from insomnia have a 38% higher risk of developing heart disease compared to those who sleep regularly, even if they do not smoke, are not overweight, and have no history of heart problems. The reason is that when the heart begins to work less efficiently due to narrowed arteries or high blood pressure, the body responds by activating the sympathetic nervous system. The heart beats faster, the mind stays on high alert, and although you are lying in bed, your brain simply cannot rest. I remember a patient who told me she had suffered from unexplained insomnia for weeks. Just days later, she was admitted to the hospital with a heart attack. The tragic part is that if she had recognized her insomnia as an early warning sign, things might have turned out differently. Have you ever endured 3 or 4 sleepless nights in a row without any clear reason? If so, share your story in the comments, because your experience might help someone else stay alert. And now, let us move to the final sign, a clear signal that is often underestimated: an irregular heartbeat, pounding rapidly even while you are at rest. Do you want to know why the heart sometimes beats so restlessly? Sign 10. Rapid heartbeat or palpitations at rest. Have you ever been sitting quietly in a chair or lying down to rest when suddenly your heart began racing, pounding as if it were running a marathon with no apparent reason? No coffee, no stress, no strenuous activity, just an abnormal rhythm that left you uneasy. One of my patients, Connie, 66 years old, often woke up in the middle of the night with her heart racing and an indescribable sense of palpitations. A doctor once told her it was just mild anxiety. But only a few weeks later, she was hospitalized with a heart attack that came without warning.
This shows us that even brief episodes of irregular heartbeat can be an early cry for help from a struggling heart. When blood vessels narrow or blood pressure fluctuates, the heart has to work harder to pump blood throughout the body. You can feel this in your quietest moments, the very times when your heart should be calm. The frightening truth is that many people dismiss it, reassuring themselves, it's just a little nervousness. But that complacency has cost countless people the chance to prevent a heart attack in time. Have you ever experienced unusual heartbeats, sudden, rapid pounding, even while resting? Share your experience in the comments, because your story might save someone else who is ignoring their own body's signals. And now, let us close with one important message. The scariest part of the heart attack is not the intense pain, but the silence. The heart does not always cry for help with the crushing chest pain you may imagine. Sometimes it is just a sleepless night, a short breath while climbing the stairs, or a lingering fatigue that seems harmless. And yet, these small signs may be the heart's final whisper before it stops beating. I once heard a granddaughter break down in tears as she spoke about her grandmother. We thought she was just tired because of old age. If only we had taken her to the doctor earlier, just one day earlier, maybe things wouldn't have been permanent. That statement brought silence over the entire clinic. It reminded me that sometimes what saves a life is not a major surgery, but simply listening to the body a little sooner. That is why, if even one of the 10 signs in this video makes you think of yourself, your mother, or your spouse, do not hesitate. Take it as a reminder to care more, to seek medical attention earlier, and to give your heart the chance to continue walking beside you. Have you ever experienced any of these 10 warning signs? Share your story in the comments, because your words might save someone else who is ignoring their own body's signals. And if you find this video helpful, share it with your loved ones, because one simple click might help someone avoid a tragedy. Stay with us for the upcoming videos, where you will discover more valuable information to protect your heart and live healthily beyond 60. Because your health is the most precious gift you can give to your family.